Welcome to the Game On podcast. Tonight, Australia, 2 wins in about 2 minutes of each other.
The symbolism of Mitchell Stark taking the catch and the last touch of the ball in the men's game.
Absolutely.
The link.
Steve Smith brings up his 10,000th run in impressive style. And the AFL Indigenous All-Star Game draws ever nearer, and actually I'm quite excited for it. Yes.
Jumper looks good.
All right, let's do this. Welcome to the Game On podcast. My name's Pete. Once again, joined in the studio here with Malcolm. And mate, just before we kick off, what was your highlight of the week?
I think, the cricket, it was hard to get enthused by in terms of that they were such easy wins. Mm-hmm. But it was probably the professionalism of them all. That look, the Sri Lankan batting, I admit I was out and about on Saturday.
Yes.
Selling books. And I may have been watched the end of Sri Lanka's innings at a pub. And I will say their batting from number 8 to number 11, Pete, you and I could have got a wicket.
Well,
it was horrendous.
Shall we get our passports ready, mate?
Oh, they lost 7 for 15 in that spell, and God, there was some terrible batting.
All right, we'll talk some more cricket a little bit later. Coming up a little bit later on, we've obviously got the tennis, the soccer, and the basketball. Mixed fortunes there, yes. But let's get into Around the Grounds.
Around the Grounds.
All right, mate, as we mentioned, we're going to talk about those other subjects pretty soon, but let's kick off with the AFL. Let's take a look at what's happening around the AFL at the moment. Things are starting to ramp up a little bit. Maybe we'll kick off with the Western Bulldogs. They've got some pretty serious injuries, don't they? Yeah,
so you've got Liam Jones will miss a fair chunk, Adam Treloar, also Jason Johannesson, and of course the doubt on Ugle-Hagan when he's going to play, if and when he's going to play. And look, straight off the bat, now you had Tom Boyd who came out, and anyone who's out there with the subject of depression, and unfortunately it is a topic which has risen its head again today.
Yes.
I strongly suggest go and buy, or you can go to a library and borrow the book on Tom Boyd. I think he actually showed a lot of courage to retire.
Yes.
And I've got no problems if Ugle-Hagan heads down the same track.
Yep.
And I just think we've got to still get a lot better at admitting our problems, talking more males especially, but don't worry, it is females as well.
Absolutely.
Society in general, that's still it's a really sad thing again today, and just a big thing. We've all got to talk more.
Well, let's talk about that. Obviously, it was a real shock today. Not one, but 2 people in the AFL family have obviously passed away. One of them is definitely down the lines of that depressive
it's along that,
episode.
Along the lines.
But is concussion potentially a factor in this case?
It is potentially. You just still got to wait and see, but I'm sure they will be doing the scan, you would think, on that, because it's a subject which has to come up in this. So, yes, you would think we'll just wait and see on the results. And look, Dale Tapping, the myeloma, I know it pretty well. It's what my brother-in-law died of.
Yes.
And so in that way, and reading some tributes today and how he broke the news to his children and along those ways. And look, the only other thing we could say there is just obviously huge thoughts to the Tapping and Selwood families.
Absolutely.
And friends, etc.
Well done to Essendon for basically putting off their family day in honour or in respect, which is really, really hard. But the Selwood family have been renowned for AFL football for a long, long time. Obviously, we know the exploits of Joel, but his brother actually got to play at Geelong as well.
Yeah, look, famous family. Certainly not only Joel, and really sad with Troy. And
absolutely. Let's obviously show our respects there, but also give Joel some privacy. This is probably a bit more of a call out to the media more than anything.
Yes.
Giving him a little bit of privacy in this sad situation. So yes, as we said, condolences definitely to the family. Mate, let's move on with the AFL. obviously looking a bit more at the local teams here in Adelaide, with Adelaide and Port Adelaide, it's always interesting at this time of the year, you know, with the best 22 or, you know, which players are certainly potentially going to come into the side. I don't necessarily want to name the best 22, but are there a couple of players for Adelaide that will make a difference this year and also might step up to the mark as well?
Oh, look, just purely on who they've recruited. Coming Pete Leen and Neil Bullen will all be in their best 22.
Yep.
So you've got that. Look, and if Draper's back comes up, he'll play.
Well, that was going to be my question to you, was Draper's obviously the number one draft pick. It sounds from all the whisperings going around town that, you know, he's been ripping it up, apart from not being able to get on the track with a little bit of a sore back. But is he going to get those midfield minutes early, or is he going to maybe start on that half forward, half back flank and then work his way in?
I personally think he's that good and what Adelaide need. And as I said, I've seen a lot of him the last couple of years.
Yep.
I'm a massive Draper fan. He'd be in my starting four at the opening bounce for round one personally.
Yep, fair enough. So then, talking about that in your opening four, where does Matty Crouch sit? Because he showed resilience in coming back and playing well. Has he got a role to play?
I think so still, especially if Laird goes down back. You can't play Matty Crouch and Laird together, and I think Adelaide have been hideously incompetent that it's lasted so long in the last 2 years.
Yep.
Laird goes down back. Now, that still means that there's still a spot for mine for the ball getter and give it. And Draper's both.
Yep.
Draper's quick on the outside as well, where Crouch isn't.
Yep.
So, you know, Crouch can still get it and give it. And I still think there is a role for him in that way.
Mm-hmm.
It maybe depends on matchups and all that sort of thing.
Yep.
But I think...
So a little more horses for courses?
Possibly, but I still think on balance for his ball getting, there is still a spot. There is still a role.
Absolutely. Peatling's probably an interesting one. Where do you see him slotting into that lineup?
I think he'll be on ball and at half forward as well. I think he'll play a bit of everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
I think Cumming will be the same. Cumming will play half back wing,
Yep.
maybe a little bit inside as well. But I think Peatling will go a bit of everywhere.
And Adelaide's forgotten man, Wayne Miller Jr.
Yeah, look, I hope they play him at SNFL for a while. Let's not forget, he's hardly played any football for about 3 years. It's not just 1 year.
Yep.
It's about 3 years. I'd really like for him to play SNFL about the first 6-7 weeks.
So let him build into the season a little bit.
So.
Yep, and I think that's fair enough, as you said, missing, you know, almost 3 years.
Yeah, everyone's just saying, he's back. Well, hang on, let's remember how little footy he's played for so long.
But Adelaide are also not in the position now where they could carry somebody like that. They've actually got, like you mentioned a bit earlier, a little bit more depth.
Yeah, there's a bit more depth.
Yep.
It's not. Again, you just got to wait and see if his body holds up too.
All reports Taylor Walker's going all right at the moment. Fitness staff are sort of saying that his numbers are really, really good. That's a pretty good sign.
Yep. Hopefully Tex will be out there and lead it. Yeah, they need his leadership.
Yep.
You know, let's remember there was a game against Western Bulldogs where they rested him. And
they looked at sea.
They looked like a ship without a rudder, you know.
Yep. So him being fit, and obviously we've been sort of speculating, I suppose, as to Thilthorpe, Fogarty, Walker, can it all work with all three? Does that now, if Tex is up and about, does that really then push Thilthorpe up the ground? Or does it push Fogarty up the ground?
I think it pushes more Fogarty around.
Okay.
Personally. Thilthorpe looked so good at the end of last year. He just looked like a beast, and good luck for anyone standing him. Round one could well end up to be a shootout. Max King versus Thilthorpe in terms of that regard of a dominant, potentially dominant key forward. So
you see Fogarty as that more roaming half forward, almost Matty Robran type role with the delivery. I mean, his foot skills are sublime.
Foot skills are good. Whether he's got the tank to do that is still the massive question mark. He's never passed in that regard.
Yeah.
In that regard,
and that's why I asked.
Full forward. So I still think it's a bit of a question mark there.
Yep. That's why I asked. Do you see the tank of Thilthorpe being better than the tank of Fogarty?
Oh yes, and the tank of Walker's still,
right.
I know Tex is older, but I think he still gets around, and Tex's delivery is very good.
Absolutely. All right, it's going to be interesting to see how that role plays out. All right, we better move across the road there to Port Adelaide. Port Adelaide, round one. Any real surprises that are going to jump up?
It sounds like Josh Shin has been picked out to replace Houston.
Yes.
You got to remember too, they didn't have Kane Farrell at the end of the year last year as well, so that gets back to a really good ball user down back.
Yep.
So if Sin can stand up, because ability's not the question mark there as well, it's been his body.
Yes.
If he can stand up, it might be as big a loss. And the word is Porter's going to intend to play quicker. Heard an interview with Logan Evans today, and they were talking about just moving it quicker, a bit more risk.
Yep.
Recruiting Richards, who I think is a really interesting pickup by Port.
Mm-hmm. In what regards?
I think he's got a bit.
Okay.
And he is quick.
Were you surprised Collingwood would let him go so easily?
Oh, it depends on your salary cap. You just don't know.
Yep.
And let's be honest, if any of us are offered 30 to 50 grand more a year extra in your job, see you later.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and he got offered 3 or 4 years by Port compared to 1 year at Collingwood.
Yep.
Well, you'd be mad, He'd almost be negligent not to.
Yep.
So
Port Adelaide looking to play a little bit quicker. Now, Horn Francis spent some time overseas in America, almost doing the Travis Boak regime. I suppose that's probably the best way of looking at it.
As we say.
Is that a benefit to him in his longevity? I'm not talking about him
no doubt
now,
about
because
that.
I think
no doubt about that.
Help, but
yeah, I think it is. Just purely if that threesome, and then Drew's the negative one, but that three is up and about. They challenge everyone.
Yep.
Just purely those three on ball that they can challenge any side for mine.
Does that paper over a little bit of the cracks down back? Because I think they're one key defender short, really, aren't they?
Potentially, yes. But if they're going to take more, they may be really great to watch if they're going to try and play with a bit more pace. And I like that idea for them. I don't reckon their list is a stop back and
yes,
elite ball kicking side.
Like the Hawthorn of
yeah,
yesteryear.
like
yep.
Boak and Wines, their weakness is by foot. So them trying to lace out a guy, and it showed in the prelim final.
Yes.
Get it, move it quickly, mate. Probably suits those two more. Just get it forward,
Yep. So Kenny's got on the whiteboard there at Alberton, maybe a bit of chaos ball.
Yeah, why not?
And it could work.
And let's remember, in Richmond and all their thing, in 17, it was by fluke. Vickery bombed and was injured and struggled as well. Mm-hmm. And then they had, I'm trying to remember his name. He decided to go to America for the gridiron, gridiron bit.
Yep.
So it became almost by fluke that it became just Jack Rewalt and Chaos Ball, and have a look how that worked.
Yep.
So I think it's really underrated to do that.
Absolutely. Well, I know we're not due to talk about Richmond, but Tom Lynch, what are your thoughts there? Question without notice, in that injuries look like they've caught up with him again.
Yeah, concussion's a little bit different. It's not like it's another. Hopefully, it's just a mild dose of concussion.
Yes.
It's the 14 days, whatever. Yep. And he's back.
Yes.
Now they said he was getting through. It's been his muscle injuries have been the big thing. It's just keep breakdown. So they said no, he's been getting on the track and getting through it. So
but the side effects from the
hopefully
concussions.
On this
hopefully,
one,
Richmond would certainly love to have him out there mentoring some of their young ones. But we better move on to this week's teams. We did say last week that we were going to talk about Essendon and Fremantle.
Look, for mine, Essendon's a really interesting one.
Well, they're the enigma for me. Yeah. I don't know where to place them.
Yeah, they've gone youth for mine. They've really... Look, Josh Caddy showed a fair bit last year. Look, they've really thrown a lot of eggs in their basket on Isaac Kako. They gave up a lot for him. They decided that he was their one. He's meant to be the small... forward, lock it in, the explosiveness. That has been a weakness for Essendon. There's no doubt about that.
Absolutely.
But, they've got him. They need Elijah Sardis to come through. They've always had troubles, too, with injury, like Nick Cox and I'm trying to remember the other one, and Harrison Jones. Well, the high draft choices and then their bodies just haven't kept up to the
Yes.
demands of AFL footy.
Yep.
Big risk. They're an enigma a little bit. They could be exciting, but geez, few injuries, they could fall away pretty rapidly as well. So
where does that leave is it the younger of the Scott brothers or the older? I always get it mixed up. But where does that leave? Where does that leave him?
Brad's probably the one under a bit more. Chris has got 2 premierships on the board.
That's right.
And that. So it's Brad Strug, probably he's under the pump. But, yeah, there's youth there and some talent, but there's some question mark amongst it. And you just don't know.
Do you feel like Essendon are currently at where, say, Adelaide have been at for the last maybe 1 or 2 years, where they've had those experienced players, but they've had those really young ones and they haven't bridged the gap?
Yeah, possibly.
Or do you think they're better than that?
Yeah, I think they may be a bit more advanced than that, but they're not in my 8 at 8, but it's pretty hard. Look, you can really, from just doing it, I think you're really only going that West Coast, North Melbourne and Richmond, and everyone else is in with a chance.
Yep.
I think we'd be surprised if any of those 3 contended.
Can jump, yep.
Yeah.
Essendon, obviously, average age 23.9 years, equal 14th oldest. I thought that was quite interesting.
Yeah, but again, it's just like, because they recruited Todd Goldstein,
correct,
that raises everything up.
And I was going to say that the most amount of games there was Todd Goldstein at 329. So that does sort of raise the average age a little bit. Average games, 69.6, the 11th most experienced list. Players with 100 games plus 11 and players with 50 games or less at 20. So
that shows
gap,
that
isn't
gap.
it?
Yeah,
exactly
yeah.
right. So I think trying to select Essendon this year, trying to tip Essendon this year could be an interesting exercise. I think we might have a bit of fun with it, and
I think they're the unknown. They're probably as much the unknown one this year as any side.
Yes.
Come on.
Yep. And it's going to be an interesting watch. Might have a little bit of fun with it. I'm actually trying to get our website up and running, and as part of that, doing some actual tipping. So might try and get the listeners involved there. But let's move on to Fremantle, mate. Fremantle have promised so much in the last couple of years, but just have failed to deliver.
And they've gone big on Shai Bolton. He's their big recruit.
Yep.
His record over at Optus is fantastic for Richmond. So I'm sure that's played a part of it.
Yep.
But he's their huge recruit. The big thing there with Freo is just Ryan, Darcy, Brayshaw, Sarong, Fife.
Yes.
There's a lot of players there that you just got to wait and see if they can get all on the park. Fife's probably not as important as the other 4 anymore.
No, but he's sort of learnt to play the role a lot better last year. The year before, he looked a bit at sea with it.
If they're big guns in terms of that midfield all stayed fit, they change. They go pretty deep with Caleb Sarong as well in there. So it's a very deep midfield.
Yep. Do you think they've gone a bit too top heavy with some oversized players?
No, not really. No, I don't think so. So
you think they've got the mix right?
Yeah, I don't think they're too bad there. So they're probably, Amos and Tracy both have shown a fair bit in the last couple of years, but they need them both to stand up. And Amos, when he started, was considered a dead-eye dick as a junior, and he looked really good in terms of kicking for goal. And then he had the yips for a while. Yep. So he's one they obviously need to kick it straight.
Harry McKay from Carlton in the same boat. Looks $1 million, but had the yips for a little while.
Yeah, so I think I think Richmond. I think Freo should they should have made the finals last year. Picking up Bolton this year and that they think they're in the window.
Yep.
So they'd expect to play finals.
Well, all the metrics say the average age is 24.4, which is the equal 10th oldest. It's probably a reasonable profile to be in, isn't it? When you look at some of the players they have recruited and some of those older players. 68 games, the 13th most experienced list, with Nat Fyfe topping the leading games at 240. He'll get to 250 this year, which is a great milestone for the Brownlow medalist. Games with 100 plus, they've only got 12.
Yeah.
It's that experience that does help get you towards
12,
that
but if you've got a couple more or over 80 and they get towards it. It's still pretty reasonable. Look, I'm a G for Charlie Nichols.
Yes.
Too. So, look, I actually think Freo is a good club for him to go to. Tall, young forward from Centrals.
Yes.
To go over there, he'll start in the waffle. You're going to have nice big grounds, which probably helps him and all that as well. And then obviously, considering Optus exactly the same size as the G, that probably I think it's a good club for Charlie, and I will certainly be following him.
Hey, and
this year.
Central's obviously one of the bigger ovals here that he's had plenty of time to practice on, so I don't think that'll be too much of a problem. Players with less than 50 games at 21 as well, so they've got that age profile reasonably good as well. But like you said, those experienced players that have been missing due to injury is probably the key for them making the finals or not. So I've probably got them in my 8, but I think a few things have sort of got to go right.
They need like a Michael Frederick to take the next step, to go from being a good player to being A-graded, burst on, be all Australian, that side of things. They need a couple to do that as well.
All right, next week we're going to take a look at Geelong and the Gold Coast Suns. That'll be actually two very, very interesting teams that we want to look at there as well. All right, let's move on to the SANFL, mate. We've brought them up the batting order tonight, and let's have a little bit of a look at the pre-season reviews for the Nord Footy Club, the Glenelg Footy Club and Sturt. We're obviously going in, not premiership order, but final standings order of last season.
Yeah, although we swapped Centrals and Sturt around just because Centrals have got a few more in and Sturt a bit more. It's
correct, and Nord have got a lot in, so we'll probably spend a bit of time on that. Apologies for any other clubs that are listening in. We have had a little bit of feedback over the YouTube site there of people that are tuning in from different places. But, mate, let's kick off with Glenelg, the reigning premiers.
Yeah, look, to pick up Jared Lyons and get Luke Partington back, that's the best midfield by a long way at SANFL level. Carl Finlay's pretty handy from North Adelaide. I think Patrick Parnell will be a very good recruit for him. He's a good ball user, a good decision maker.
Yes.
His size was a bit of an issue, but he was just a bit of unlucky where his body let him down with Adelaide. But I think he can be a very good SANFL player. Interesting that the Victorians decided to stay here.
Yes.
Too. So, yeah, look, and they get Matt Coulthard back from Richmond as well. So they've recruited really strongly, and what they've brought in, and some juniors the last couple of years are going to be in the mix as well. So again, for mine, Glenelg are well and truly the side to beat.
They are going to be the favourites by a long, long way.
Yeah, they've lost Billy Stretch. Billy Stretch and Chris Curran has retired. Chris Curran's remarkable, really, that he left, went to Prince's, played in the premiership side of Prince's. You thought, and most guys don't then go back. Then goes back. Was a big contributor for them on last year on a wing where they his experience was very handy for him, unfortunately. And that, in all seriousness, he was very important for him, and well done.
Absolutely.
So
well done, obviously, last year to those players. But, their recruits are as A-grade as you could possibly ask for.
They've also picked up Liam Jones from Launceston, Isaac Hyatt from Launceston. Look, a lot of Tasmanians have come over here and are really using the SANFL as an audition case for trying to get into the Tassie side
Devils,
first. Devil, good on them. Good. And that Ryan Pickering from Centrals, Waylon Davey Motlett from the Oakley Chargers.
Yep.
Look, they've lost Matthew Snooker's retired, Chris Curran. Will Gould's decided to go and have a go at the NFL side of things. Billy Stretch, as we said, Oscar Kitchke's gone to Centrals. Angus Clark, I will be following him big time at Essendon. I was, for mine, while he's a young defender, I think he's capable of stepping up pretty quickly.
Yes. Well, he might get that opportunity. We did talk about Essendon a little bit earlier.
Ben and Lucas Camporelli to Carlton.
Yep.
I've still got big question marks there personally.
That's fine.
Declan Carmody to Mount Lofty, Reed Cooler to Myponga, and Noah Sims saying Walkerville. Hopefully not yet, but
we'll see how we go.
Yes.
Glenelg, as we said, probably our flag favourites at the moment, but they've recruited very, very well. All right, mate, let's move on to Norwood. The runners-up for last year, there's been Well, let's just say there's been a turnover of the list that it's going to make it interesting for the first 5 or 6 weeks, trying to nail down the players and a spot.
It's probably been that way the last couple of years as it is, and we've still got to wait and see to the Sandover medalist, etc. What happens there?
Yep. Hopefully a decision sooner rather than later.
Yeah, it is. Hopefully he's back. It'll be ridiculous if he's not.
Yep.
Look, we picked up Tom McCullum from Port. Will Rowlands is an interesting one. He's Nord Junior.
Yes.
He's got a bit of X factor. Geez, he's a long kick.
Yes.
So he'll be able to have pings from outside 50 playing half forward.
Yep.
So they'll play him in that roaming role. I think he's pretty exciting. Now, Charlie Molan's gone over from Sturt. Finished high up in the reserves.
Yes.
Medals, decided to have a hit with the Redlegs.
Yes.
Daniel Gorchie for GWS Academy. Jack Hodges, North Adelaide and Paynham.
Yep.
Jack Ahern, North Launceston. Connor and Liam Ling. So it's going to be 3 Lings at Nord.
That's going to be very hard to call for anybody commentating.
Yes, potentially if they're all the side. I'm looking forward to catch up with Lingy to stir him up. So that's the Ling takeover.
Yes.
Mitchell Nichols and Kalen Matthews, both from North Launceston. So, again, it's the Tassie bit there. Look, there's connections with Tasmania well and truly now. Look, it wasn't only Jade Rawlings. The fact that Bain Lowe and Tom Donnelly have both been pretty successful.
Yes.
It's probably also helped sell Nord as a club in that way, and they're both pretty good in that way. So, I think the connections from Tasmania are set up there for a while.
Absolutely.
Look, a big turnover.
Just before we go on with that part of it, are you surprised, and we obviously heard it with Glenelg as well and with Nord, are you surprised that these players are choosing the SNFL over the VFL?
Not really. And
does that then give status that the SNFL is the second best competition?
There's still a lot of debate. There's a lot of debate, but there's probably maybe also more spots at the moment at SNFL. Look, there's been a lot of Tasmanians gone over there as well.
Yes.
They've swum across.
It's not that far really from Victoria. That's why I asked, because
I think there's also the links, and to Nord's credit, they've probably seen that a few years ago, right? So I think it's been a bit of a long-term commitment there as well. Look, Nord are going over to play a trial game there in Tasmania as well.
So I was going to talk.
Male and female, and they've recruited at least one Tasmanian in the female side of things.
Yep.
We'll do that when we do the female side.
Absolutely. Is that also a case of Nord looking at it as a potential feeder for the Tasmanian Devils as that second team potentially outside of Tasmania?
I'm not really sure there. We'll just wait and see on that one.
We've had the debate about Nord being in the AFL. Yes, no, maybe, perhaps. But is this a way of just sort of posturing into a good position to do that?
Yeah, I don't think so.
It's a question without notice. But anyway, all right, let's move on. Nord, they've lost a few. Yeah,
Harry Boyd's obviously the big one.
Yes.
All the best to the big fella at St Kilda.
Absolutely.
Marshall being injured for St Kilda has potentially opened up the thing that he may well debut against Adelaide in round 1.
Which would be very interesting, wouldn't it?
Yeah, Matty Panos, the Kings retired.
Yes.
Sam Morris has gone out to Paynham. Henry Nelligan, while it's got work interstate here, my understanding is he's playing at Hackney High, so we'll wait and see on that one where else he's playing. But Alex Van Wyck's a big loss to North Adelaide. Look, I think he should have played last year. I think Nord were silly to some regards last year.
Stuck with what they knew.
Well, I don't think there was enough planning done in case Harry did get picked up. And Alex should have been in that equation. Yeah, if he'd played 3 or so games last year,
he probably stays.
Brody and Mitch Carroll have both gone to Imperials at Murray Bridge. Again, I certainly, I'm being open. I thought Mitch should have played in last year's grand final. Tom Graham also has returned to Victoria. Look, Tom Graham, for mine, he struggled in his first bit at Nord, and then he was very good last year at the start. And then, for mine, he'd been integral and really important part of the defence. Struggled one bloody game on McBean. Liam McBean got dropped to the twos. And to his credit, he was an important part of that twos premiership side.
Yes.
But I do wonder if he'd been used better.
Yes.
Whether it'd still be at the parade.
Yep.
Xavier Tranther, I think he's gone out to Ross Trevor.
Mm-hmm.
Luke Bogle's trying for South. It's gone back to South for a bit of opportunity there as well.
Yep.
Cam Tahini's gone out to gone to the Crows.
Yes.
In the SNFL side of things. Goy Locke back to Victoria. Look, Ned Bowman, Sydney Swans. All
yep.
the best to Ned
Absolutely.
there, and Jay Polkinghorn at Glenelg. Nick Wakeman to South. Jordan Boyle looks like he won't be around as well. So there's a lot of turnover. So a few things up in the air. You look.
Well,
at the moment, I just think there's so many questions.
Absolutely. Jay Sheedy's got a lot of hard work ahead of him, but he has been there before. Yeah. So the good thing about that is he will not only learn from his experience, obviously coaching last time round, but also, the ever-changing face of SNFL football that you've got to go with that 18 and really back them in for at least a short period of time.
And Liam Robinson,
yes,
the incredible Hulks, bulked up and put on 7 or so kilos, which his brother might have got married on the weekend, and he may have been, Liam, fitted up for the suit a while back.
Yes, couldn't fit into it.
Well, then the weight just eventually came, and Robinson family may have gone to and the suit person being very apologetic on so much the mistake, I think. So,
yep.
Yeah, I think Liam will dine out on that one.
Absolutely, I'm sure. I like it. The Hulk. Yes, all right. Yes. Fantastic. All right. Best of luck to Norwood this year. Hoping for a good year. But yeah, those first couple of games are going to be very interesting to watch. All right, let's move on to Sturt, mate. Sturt are probably up there as far as what we think of. They've not only recruited well, but they're a bit unlucky to run into a couple of red-hot teams towards the back end of the year, and it sort of just threw a spanner in the works, didn't it? Look,
they've recruited pretty selectively, and so they should, because they're, let's remember, their 18s and their reserves were both in the grand final.
Yep.
So there's some youth there they want to give opportunities, and so they should.
Yes.
So, Mitch Crowden and Tom Emmett have both come back from Freo. Tom Emmett, very well coached in Sapsaza many years ago.
I'm not going to ask the coach because I think we all know.
Well, with Weathers. I think those two will be very good. And Marty Fredericks comes back.
Yep.
And he was very good for Sturt, especially the first half of
2022, I reckon it was.
Yeah,
yep.
So I think they're Lachlan May from Nairn and Malaki Cartanieri. I've nailed that.
Well done.
On Ramblers from Murray Bridge.
Very well done.
I think they've been, and they've lost a bit of Guy Page and Stephen Slimming, especially,
just that little bit of depth.
Yeah, well, a bit better than that. Both were still playing consistent league footy, but both. I know Stephen Slimming was work in Melbourne, and it was virtually almost too good an offer, and he would have been silly not to have tried to set himself up after footy.
Absolutely.
Liam Puncher's gone to Woodville West Torrens. They've lost a bit of depth there, which purely because of numbers they were going to. I think they'd be a bit disappointed that Ned Atkinson decided to go to Adelaide.
Yes.
Tommy McCormack's also done the same there. Brad Jeffries at South, as we said, Charlie Molan. Alex Dodson, they knew he was going to get drafted. I'm amazed he fell. For me, that was the biggest surprise of the draft, that he fell so low.
Yes.
And I think that's a big pickup long-term for St Kilda. Jacob Mollier at Geelong and James Richards gone to Urada. So they've lost a bit of depth, but selective recruiting and their juniors to come up, I think they're in a pretty reasonable spot.
They're reasonably good operators at the best of times, not only on the field but off the field. But it sounds like that's the charter, I suppose, for season 2025 is that plug the holes with the players that they've gone out and got, give opportunity to their youth, and the rest could actually work for them.
While we're talking about the SNFL, it'd be probably negligent that we didn't mention that we did interview Greg Edwards, and that's still to come, where that's going to go up and all that side of things. But I think it's a pretty important comment where Greg made the point that Sue Dewing and himself, if those two hadn't been involved, that the AFL clubs would have got even better concessions.
Yes.
I think that was a really important point by Greg. And so people who were out there and criticising, saying, the SNFL bent over and all that. Well, let's just remember semester. Yeah, they did.
They bent over a lot further than what they were what they wanted. So.
But SNFL clubs were fighting and doing the right thing.
Yep.
And that as well.
Absolutely. Well, speaking of Greg Edwards, we're going to actually show a bit of highlights from that round 1982 fantastic game between Centrals and Glenelg, where Greg actually kicked 11 goals
he
too.
did dominate.
So we'll have that as part of our flashbacks a little bit later on. And as you mentioned there, we've got some interviews with KT that we've just got to finish off.
Yep.
So that'll be over the next couple of weeks. But as soon as we bring up the Greg Edwards interview, we'll certainly let everybody know. All right, mate, we're going to take a very, very quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk the cricket. Obviously, very, very important what's going on there at the moment, and the second test for the men's as well. Coming up, Adelaide United falling over at just the wrong time against Sydney. And the Adelaide 36ers unfortunately had the golden ticket, but just can't cash it in. And absolute bizarre scenes in the Davis Cup with a player basically being shirt-fronted.
You're listening to the Game On Podcast. We'll be right back after this short break.
Looking to buy or sell your home anywhere in Adelaide, from the hills to the sea? Meet Gary KRIEVS, your dedicated local agent from OUWENS CASSERLY Real Estate. With unparalleled knowledge of Adelaide's housing market and a commitment to exceptional service, Gary ensures a smooth and stress-free experience for all your real estate needs. Trust the expert, trust Gary KRIEVS at OUWENS CASSERLY Real Estate. Your next dream home awaits. Contact Gary today on 0422 071 317 or on email garyk@ocre.com.au. And for more listings, please visit owenscasserly.com.au. Make it happen. All right, once again, we thank our sponsors for helping us out on the show here, and just a shout out anybody that is looking to get a little bit of exposure, we'd certainly love to hear from you, so please get in contact. All right, let's move on to cricket, mate. Test cricket, Australia and the Australian women's team all finishing within a couple of balls of each other and a couple of minutes of each other in emphatic circumstances in both games.
Yeah, look, let's get it. The Australian selectors, there was a bit of criticism, with not picking Constas, but they said, no, we want to win each test match. We believe our best way, as Travis said, getting Australia off to the fast start. And he certainly delivered in that regard and smashed a quick 50 and set the tone.
Yes. Do you think that settled Khawaja down a little bit?
Well, it just makes it a little bit easier. When the other guy's scoring so freely, you can just...
Because it almost looked like the Warner-Khawaja deal all over again.
Yeah, it's just a bit easier. Yes. And look, let's also remember Sri Lanka's fielding, and there was a poor umpiring not to have given Travis out.
Yes.
But then not to review it when it turned out it was just palpably out.
Blatantly out.
So there was that one. They dropped a few. Look, Steve Smith brought up he was going to go out and score first ball. He'd obviously replayed that in his mind 8 million times, which is Steve Smith. But he got dropped on one as well. And then he settled. Yep. And they weren't getting him out after that. And he just had it. Total control, him and Khawaja. And look, I'm not even going to bother to look up the Sri Lankan offie. None for 184, I think it was.
Yes.
But he was so many things. He looked like a youngster starting out just trying to bowl on the mode part.
Yep.
There was no rotation through the crease, no revs on the ball. Technically, it was horrendous. And look, anyone who could remotely hold a bat would have been pretty keen to get hold of the bat. Look, to Josh Inglis's credit, he delivered.
Yes.
And, his chilled form and all that.
Yep.
No problem with that.
Were you happy that they gave him that opportunity?
I didn't mind it.
Yep.
Look, I could also see the point of playing McSweeney or Constas. I could see all three of that.
Yep.
It wasn't a yes or a no, emphatically for mine. But as it turned out, as they mucked around last night on the medal, where they said to Mitch Marsh, well, you've been boomered and you could have batted on that, and you could see his reaction as well, that everyone's thinking the same thing. Yep. So, look, good luck to Australia there. The spinners delivered. Kuhnemann looked to have badly broken his thumb only a week ago, so full credit to the surgeon.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he's done that to get him back playing, which is just remarkable. You could see that he didn't want to field on that hand. Not a problem.
No.
But he delivered with 9 wickets in the game. A left-arm orthodox is just so important on wickets which spin. So now...
Well, let's talk about the wicket. Were you surprised the wicket played as well as it did? I thought there'd be a hell of a lot more turn.
Thought it might have turned a bit earlier.
Yes.
And Travis thinks this one will turn earlier.
Yep.
So, which isn't a surprise. They've got a...
They're using the same pitch.
Yeah. I would have prepared I'm amazed that they didn't prepare an absolute Bunsen burner. I don't... That's, for me, test matches in Asia, I don't rate as high. I rate runs if you can get them in the second innings and fourth innings massively.
Absolutely.
But
if you win the toss,
it's just too big an advantage. It's just too important.
Yep.
For mine, yes, it's an advantage at every ground, but you can still hear some games here. Oh well, quite happy I lost the toss because wasn't sure what we'd do. Well, no way in the world in the subcontinent is that the case. Yep. So
question without notice. Does this result for Australia lay a little bit more weight to the two-tier test system?
Unfortunately, I think it does.
Yeah.
Look, let's wait and see what happens in the second test. Australia did dominate, won the test there on their last tour, the first test by 10 wickets, and then lost the next test. So let's wait and see.
Yep.
Look, I'd be amazed if that happened because it didn't look to be the bowling depth in Sri Lanka to do that.
No, that's what I ask.
If you get an absolute Bunsen burner, you've only got to put it in the right areas. Well, then anything can happen. And if they bat first and get 400 to 500,
yes.
Well, then good luck Australia.
Is it the swings and roundabouts? Obviously in sport, and you look back to the yesteryear where the West Indies were well and truly up there, and now they're struggling. Pakistan in the same boat, but that's for geopolitical reasons as well. That sort of plays into that a little bit. And Sri Lanka are sort of in that same boat, that there's not that depth coming through.
Yeah,
so
well, it's political. It's poor. It's a hell of a lot more life struggles. I actually watched the test and all that sort of that. I binged it over 2 days.
Yes.
And to sit the test match in Sri Lanka where the Australian players, when they lost, it was almost... there's a political uprising where I reckon everyone's thinking, well, it's incredible. Australia, what do we do about politics? We put up stupid cartoons about it.
Yes.
We're over there. It was huge. And, so it was just so weird. Imagine people playing and there's thousands of people around protesting about the government. So it would have been weird to play.
Absolutely. All right. Well, second test obviously coming up this week. No batting lineup changes, do you see?
No, I'd be surprised if it's not an unchanged 11. I do see the point of Cooper Connolly maybe given a chance, but I think they'll still go with Murphy and go with the same 11.
Surprised with Constas being basically sent home? Or, left off of the
not
team
really.
sheets? No?
No, I do see the point too where Brad Haddon's saying... Well, get him back to Australia. If you're not going to play, get him back and playing Shield cricket.
Yep.
And I agree with that.
Yep. All right, let's move on to the women's, which was an impressive performance. Winning 16-0 as far as combining them all together. But there were some individual performances that were absolutely well worthy of us giving a lot of time to tonight.
Annabelle Sutherland has got claims of being the most technically correct batsperson in Australia. She's a very, very good player. And Australia's batting depth, let's remember that Elise Perry hurt herself and made up the numbers in the field. So you imagine that's the equivalent of Australia with men's side with really Steve Smith getting injured.
Yep.
So, pretty incredible depth that Talia McGrath is batting 8. So they're a very good side, and just the longer game really exposed England's weaknesses even more and more. And, they had a disease and it certainly wasn't catching.
Yes.
You know, they dropped 7 or 8, just a couple of run-outs. And there was one where a girl ran round the ball and somehow managed to not even get a hand on it. So there were some technique things there with not getting to the side, getting down low and getting side-on fielding and just things there which you really coach from a pretty young age. It showed the big gap.
Is that part of that fast-tracking that we have with a lot of the female sports, is that we have thrown them in the deep end with some of that? And
I'm saying that was England. So, you know, I just showed the gap between the two sides even more and more. Look, they're getting thumped. You can bet some of the girls would have been desperate to get out of Australia. You don't know what's going on behind the scenes. Female sides, female in general, when they are losing, can get pretty bitchy.
Yes.
Where the guys will just basically pay the crap out of each other and get on with it.
Yep.
So I'm not really surprised that they then struggled, but geez, some of their catches, their fielding was just horrendous.
One other player we must mention is Beth Mooney, but also Alana King.
Yeah.
Fantastic bowling performance. I think she's now stamped her authority, as in she's going to be around for a while, and geez, she can do some special things with the ball.
She's very good leggy, you know, and look,
I must admit, I sat and I was mesmerised for a period of time.
She
turned
turns
it beautifully.
it a fair way.
Yeah,
Look,
yeah.
I don't think England players use their feet against her very well. I will say that. I thought that was poor. That she does give it enough a loop. You can get there.
Yep.
But she's a very good bowler.
Absolutely.
You know, and we're going to close off with it at the end there, what I thought of some of the commentary, because the women players are better than that.
Absolutely. All right, let's move on to a little bit of local cricket. The T20 women's.
Yeah, look, on this, let's get an incredible performance by Elizabeth Worthley for Sturt. Sturt, 3 for 175, defeated Glenelg 3 for 121.
Yes.
Now, out of that 175, Elizabeth Worthley, 126 not out of 74 deliveries, 17 fours and 5 sixes. To say that she absolutely dominated the final when the other player, there was a couple of 30s and 28 straight off, but
she stepped up in the way you went.
Ridiculous. The one player, you know, the percentage of runs to get 126 out of 175 is quite incredible. So
really fair effort,
yeah,
for sure. The men's team's obviously playing during the warmer weekend.
Yeah, I went out. So I did go out to East Torrens.
Yes.
So I was out there with Dad watching East Torrens and the Sacra Under 19s game.
Yes.
Look, on the first, we'll start off with the first grade Div 1.
Yes.
So Port Adelaide were bowled out for 165. Stir absolutely cruising at stumps at 1 for 159.
Yes.
Very similar in the other game. And Adelaide were actually in front of West Torrens on the premiership table before the game. So a big performance by West Torrens. So Adelaide were all out for 110. West Torrens are 2 for 190 at stumps.
Wow.
So 2 games there, which...
Still a lot of runs, though. I mean, 300-odd runs.
Yeah.
It's pretty fair effort.
And in that, for West Torrens, Bailey Capel, so Andrew's son, and Bailey does listen to it, and Andrew does listen to shows, 103 not out. So it's good to see Bailey get 100.
Yes.
Because he's had struggled a bit so far during the year. Got some starts and hasn't gone on with it.
Yep.
So good to see that. Jack Carson opened up instead of Kelvin Smith and made 67. So a really good start there. And in Adelaide, and the bowling was just more shared around a bit. But Harry Menenti, so that's the brother of. So his brother's at Adelaide. Ben's at Adelaide. Harry's at West Torrens, 4 for 24. Jack Carson's had a fair day with 67 and 3 for 22. And Seamus Keogh with 3 for 26. So a really good performance there by West Torrens.
Absolutely.
And in Sturt there, bowling in terms of bowling, again, just reasonably shared around. Angus Parker, son of Skittle, and Deb.
Is Max?
Yes, that's
Max
a brother.
The brother?
Yes, certainly. Max is one of the 4 of the boys. So Angus 3 for 49, Blake Cullen 3 for 47, Corey Kelly 2 for 40, and in Sturt's reply, Mackenzie Harvey, 62, not out. And Thomas Kelly, his first game back in the A grade, played Bs last week, and he's come back from a broken thumb. 72 not out off 49 balls with 6 fours and 5 sixes. So he's good to see. It will be interesting whether that fits in with Shield selection. I'm not sure that I have tried to find the side, but haven't found it yet coming up.
That's all right.
T. Tregelli and none for 68 against Glenelg's all out 241. So again, high scoring game there at T. Tregelli. I'll back T. Tregelli to get those runs.
Yep. Are you finding because of the weather and how it's been that the pitches are a little bit drier and a little bit harder? They're a little bit easy to score on?
Surprisingly, I reckon they're better than I expect with the lack of rain, and full credit to the curators around in general. So Glenelg made 240, 241, of which Connor McInerney, good to see state player come back and dominate it this year. He got 145 out of the 241.
Well, that can only be a good thing for
so,
confidence as well. Yep.
Yeah, so and then T. Tregelli, Kyle Brazel, 22, and Luke Holman, 43, not out at stumps. So that's probably, bizarrely, that's the most evenly poised of the games there, because Uni were all out for 140 and Kensington then went out and smashed them, and it stumps a 5 for 263. So Kensington
some big scores
potentially
there,
looking at probably another outright there. And after winning outright last game, because I think they'd probably declare overnight there, and they really scored quickly towards the end of the day. So Stephen Doheny, the Irish recruit, 51 not out off 22 balls with 4 fours and 4 sixes.
Pretty fair effort.
And Sam Rahali, 49 off 30 balls towards the end of the day. So they really went for him and got away after they got him.
Yep.
Henry Dahl there, his high score since he went away and he's come back to Kensington from East Torrens, 77. Jake Lehman, unfortunately, a Sporting Globe.
Yes.
Happens. So, but yeah, there. Over into the, as I said, the game I was at was East Torrens and the Saka 19s.
Yes.
Of which the Saka, they made 202 off 82 overs. I didn't think they tried to look for enough singles. I was critical of that in that regard.
Is that a coaching directive or is that a player run directive?
Yeah, probably both. So Lucas Doe, 27 off 94 balls. Look, compact and didn't really look like he's going to get out. But I don't think he worked enough ones. I want to see more singles.
Yep.
Luke Zabo, who's actually an East Torrens kid, so playing against his side, so it was a little funny, but he got 51. And Jack Thomas, 46 not out. Look, to his credit, he batted off 105, but he did have 1 off 28 balls at one stage there as well. So I think they probably... And then their 9-10 Jack all got ducks, where that was probably the disappointing. They batted the day and got 250. Well, then it's
a pretty good result.
It's looking better, so they fell away there. East Torrens 1 for 37 at stumps. Ryan King is 18 not out at stumps. He's been the go-to player for East Torrens for the year. So I expect East Torrens to get those runs.
Absolutely. All right, mate. Let's move.
No, we better finish. We better do the other two games because that'd be rude not to.
Nope.
Woodville is 6 for 130, chasing Southern Districts 10 for 197. Burrenton's not out, so I'd expect that Woodville to get those.
Yes.
Now, in the other game, pretty disappointing by Prospect. All out for 98 in the first innings. Northern Districts 7 for 213.
Yes.
Prospect 4 for 8 at stumps.
Ouch.
So that's pretty... disappointing there
that's
by...
a Barry Crocker, if I've ever seen one.
So, they may well finish that game pretty early.
Yep.
So, in Northern District's first innings, Ryan Demasi made 111, so that was good there, and Aidan Cale contributed well as well with 54, with obviously Prospect, great there. Bowling shared around in the first innings by... Stockdale 2 for 18, Aidan Cale 2 for 15, Josh Kahn 3 for 47, Walter Hinlock 2 for 12, and then Prospect's second innings, as we said, not great there. Geez, that's an ugly scoreboard to read.
Yes. 3
ducks and a 2, and Stockdale and Cale have shared the wickets there as well.
Yep. So good bowling performance there. Yeah. All right, mate, we're going to take a very, very quick break. We're going to have a quick look at what's coming up on Friday and Monday. Keith Thomas, part 3. Be about a 3 or 5 part series. And Craig Burton, part 2.
You're listening to the Game On Podcast. We'll be right back after this short break.
Are dents and scratches putting a dent in your day? Introducing Roger Steen Crash Repairs Adelaide, your trusted solution for automotive woes. With over 2 decades of expertise, Roger Steen Crash Repairs guarantees top-notch service, restoring your vehicle to its former glory in no time. From minor dings to major collisions, our skilled technicians handle it all with precision and care, using state-of-the-art equipment and techniques.
Roger Steen Crash Repairs saved my car. It looks brand new.
Fast, friendly and reliable. I wouldn't trust anyone else with my vehicle. Don't let accidents slow you down. Visit Roger Steen Crash Repairs Adelaide at 14 Penner Avenue, Glynde, for quality service you can count on. And here's a special offer just for our listeners. Mention this podcast and receive a $100 discount on your repair. Roger Steen Crash Repairs Adelaide. Excellence in every repair.
Flashbacks.
And he's played well today, plays it on. Terry Moore, he's back on the ground. Norsworthy was free at centre-half forward, not used. Well, Wilson's into the back of Kernahan. That's a copybook push in the back, that one. Holst picked it up to centre-half back. Bythane, a tower of strength at centre-half back for the Dogs, short. Now Norsworthy's being used. Puts the handball out. Krieg, he didn't really want it. Back to Norsworthy. He's got the run of the ball now. Seabohm trying to run him down. Short, Duthie again. Duthie takes off.
A long kick back towards centre field. Didn't lift his eyes. Draw straight to Trigger, couldn't get it. Herco, Marshall changes tack, comes back towards centre field. Simon's given the run of the ball, bad bounce. Hearn again. Krieg, short to the lead of Edwards, is good football, brilliantly done. Krieg is happy with himself. I would think that Edwards would agree it was a perfect pass. And Edwards, who has 9 goals, has the opportunity to get double figures from 30 metres out in front. He's kicked brilliantly all day, either from set shots or on the run. There it is, goal number 10. Brilliantly done, Greg Edwards. 24-16, Earl 9-8.
Peter Krieg and Edwards pretty happy about proceedings. Edwards has played well, although he's had a couple of lucky bounces, but I guess you make your own luck in this game. But it was a superb pass from Krieg, right where Edwards wanted it, for his 10th goal. But we're 9.5 minutes into the last quarter. Edwards has got 91 for the season. 100 looks a formality to the Dog champion. Central District 24-16 to the Tigers 9-8.
He's missed a couple of games too, Peter, when his form pushed him back into the reserve, so it's been a brilliant exhibition.
Liking this podcast? Please like, rate, and subscribe. Extra time. Big finish.
All right, mate, we're going to whiz through the extra time big finish. We're running a little bit late tonight, but let's get started with Adelaide United going down 4-1.
Yeah, disappointing, but look, they're probably due for a loss and all that. Hopefully it's the loss we had to have and come home this week and get back on the train. So look, overall they've been very good this year. So let's give them some slack and hopefully come back.
Don't throw the bath out, the baby out with the bathwater. Totally understand and get it as well. Let's move on to tennis. Davis Cup, some crazy scenes where a player sort of celebrating shirt fronts an opposition player.
You've got to have a look at it, folks. We will try and put it up.
Yeah.
You've got to have a look for it. It is the most weird thing. May well be the weirdest thing I've ever seen in sport.
There you go. Tension's always high when it comes to Davis Cup ties. On this occasion, did the moment get the better of the player?
Oh, I don't think there's any doubt of that. And
if it was Djokovic, banned for life,
yeah,
is that?
I don't know.
That was what was being bandied around. I don't think it was that far gone.
No, then you did wonder if the player was angling for the forfeit, which it should have been.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Well, you can't hit a spectator, you can't hit a ballman, you can't hit an umpire.
Yeah, so...
And generally, tennis is not a contact sport, so...
you go. Yeah, it's just bizarre.
Absolutely. All right. Australia obviously getting off to a very, very good start. Introducing a new player with Nick Kyrgios not being available. Volkic looked okay. He looked like he fit the part and has been itching to represent the country.
Oh, look, and probably Sweden have fallen away. They're nowhere near their golden era where they had seemed to have players which came
time and time again.
You know, so and young Luca Borg played the son of, you know, and he's nowhere near established in that yet. So it's not like they had their depth from years past.
Well, Australia go on to qualify for the second, or the second round towards the finals. So well done to them. All right, let's go basketball, mate. 36ers, we've said it all year, they're the enigma. They had the golden ticket in their hand, but they just don't want to cash it in.
Pretty disappointing loss against Brisbane at home. Brisbane decimated with injuries and, really poor. And look, I'd jump aboard all South Australian sides. And
Absolutely.
I'm sorry, the bit at the start of the year, the way Scotty Ninnis got treated and just that, and you haven't got the same buy-in. That's personally as a and I'm not a basketball nut.
No.
I go and watch. I go to the odd game here and there. I've gone to a couple. Enjoy it, but it's not. I admit it's not my number one thing. But I just disheartened
with the way that situation.
Disenchanted is probably the word.
Rolled about.
They just haven't delivered.
Absolutely. The Adelaide 36 is taking on Perth Wildcats 7 p.m. On the Friday the 7th at 9 p.m. Yeah. This is their last roll of the dice, but they don't want to be relying on other teams to
they've
get
actually
them there,
got
really.
a win for mine.
Yep. Yeah. Does that fire them up?
Oh, hopefully. But look, you just can't trust them.
Yep.
Basically.
Absolutely. All right, let's move on to the AFLW. Is February, and we've talked about it, but should the AFLW own February as a month of transition, I suppose, between sports?
I'm not alone. I know Phil Harper thinks the same thing. It should be now. AFLW should be now. Jump aboard the gap after the Australian Open is finished, the Big Bash after the 8,000th games finally finished and all that. It should be now. I just think they've thrown away the spot. Now, you play during the season.
Yes.
It gets lost amongst, obviously,
everything
AFL.
Yep.
So I just think now they had that spot where there was a bit of free air and where it could be the spot for publicity, and I just can't.
And people are just itching for that little bit of football, aren't they?
Oh, for mine, it's crazy what they did.
It's going to be a very interesting watch. Let's go NBA. The draft was a huge surprise with Luka Doncic being traded to the LA Lakers.
Probably never seen anything spoken about so much since. It's really blown the internet up and just people in total disbelief. It just seemed like the owner just did exactly what he wanted to do. No one can really understand it.
Yep.
No one can understand that they gave him up so easily and what they got back in return for Davis and a 29 choice in 2029.
Yep. It's a bizarre situation. I turned on to what was going on and it was bedlam basically going, what is going on?
No one can believe it. LeBron didn't know, and
is it one of the biggest trades in world sport?
I think it's probably the biggest.
Yeah, this one is up there. All right, mate, let's move on from that. We'll talk a little bit more. Mount Barker has changed its policy and finally common sense has prevailed.
Maybe exactly. Hopefully a bit of common sense is happening that, maybe they're losing gather round has made them
sharpen up a bit.
Think a bit more logic, because there wasn't. It was ridiculous fees were being charged to hire Mount Compass. Now you've got you've got the trial game coming up with the Crows and Port, but it's also being used for numerous 18s and SANFLW games. The first round of the junior comp, all 18s games are at Mount Barker. Yep. So things there, hopefully a bit of common sense has happened. One of the best, with Adelaide Oval, the two best surfaces in the state.
Yes.
It's finally being used.
Absolutely. So, good to see. We'll follow that one with some great interest. All right, it'd be remiss of us if we didn't talk the Super Bowls coming up again. Yeah. The Chiefs taking on the Eagles. Monday morning, it's one of the biggest sort of television days in the world's history, really, because there's a lot more people watching it.
I reckon I might head over to the Archivar to have a look.
I think you'll do pretty well there, mate. All right, let's finish off. I've got a little sound grab here, mate. Let's have a little play of it.
Rulebook Rant.
All right, mate. We are forgoing the good, the bad, the ugly tonight for the Rulebook Rant. Take it away.
Bitterly disappointed with the commentary of the whole Ashes series in terms of the women's Ashes. Condescending crap. Now, Phoebe Litchfield's a good cricketer. I'm just using Phoebe as an example. There was a catch she took in one of the one-dayers, running back from cover. There was a catch she took in the test match at bat pad. They were both good catches. They were catches I would expect a good cricketer, which Phoebe is, to take.
Yep.
Don't blow it up. Oh, that's brilliant by Phoebe Litchfield. No, treat them with the respect they deserve. This Australian side is a bloody good cricket side. It's the bit of, making out, it's female and all that. Don't go troppo like that. Just treat them. Commentate it. He should treat them with the respect they deserve. For mine, it went the other way. It went, the lovey-dovey and they've been playing so well. Well, no, they're just bloody good at cricket.
Absolutely. I think the big one is the one that was over the boundary line a little bit. That was the one to get excited about. So.
Yeah, that was the Ash Gardner one there. Yeah, go with that. That's fine.
Absolutely.
But not – it's a good cricket catch. Yeah. Well caught by Phoebe. That's filled. Don't call something brilliant.
Yep.
The players are better than that.
Absolutely. Bang. He's given it to us, both barrels with the Rulebook Rant. All right, mate, we better wind things up there. Thank you once again for your time. Thank our listeners. Like, rate and subscribe as per usual. And we look forward to doing better next week, and we'll see you all then. Thanks, mate.
In this crazy world we live in, we all need the distraction. Enjoying the show? Like, rate, and subscribe. Hook up and connect with us on social media at SportsCast SA. We'll see you next time on Game On.